What's going on, y'all? So this is a bit of a follow-up on my first impressions video where I said that runs hadn't gotten too long yet. That was recorded before my final day of the test where I finally unlocked difficulty 3 and everything I knew was basically thrown out the window. The jump in difficulty was so steep that the only logical way I could explain it is that we weren't really meant to do this content just yet. Although alluded to already during the test, the elusive gear system was not implemented just yet, as well as other modes and story basically being locked out, so I'm pretty sure we hadn't been able to get a lot of stats that we should have had otherwise. For those reasons, I put May in the title because with gear, I'm sure this content specifically will be a lot more doable, but it also gets me genuinely excited for the endgame of CZN because this difficulty jump was an absolute blast. Sure, I got my shit pushed in. No, you can't gain shield. I think you just die no matter what. Oh my god, dude, are you kidding me? But it really made me have to start really considering my moves throughout the entire run. So the biggest change from difficulty 2 to difficulty 3 would be the entire second half. Up until this point, every run you've done, you see the map, you do it, and it's done. But difficulty 3 will basically not only up the difficulty, but double the run size and time with a second map. This map comes with new enemies, new encounters, and the shot at the rarest type of events, which are not only super rewarding, but usually come with some really cool animated art or some optional, what I can only imagine be boss-esque type fights. This is also when you'll start more reliably getting the highest rarity of gear you use in a run, being the purple rarity. But without all that previous context, I just want to talk about my experience playing in the closed test. Before difficulty 3, I pretty much had everything I needed to know solved. I could clear with pretty much anything I slapped together. I figured out what I considered good or a bit lacking at the time, but with a jump in difficulty, this kind of turned everything on its head. Before I hit Diff 3, I would have put Tressa, which is one of the free characters you start with probably in A tier, and after, I still say she floats somewhere in that range, but I took her in the first Chaos, which from my experience severely punished you for playing a lot of cards. And Tressa being a character all about generating a bunch of cards to apply damage over time on your enemies, this is probably one of the worst choices I could have made. Now you could still absolutely clear with her, but I think you'd have an easier time picking more nuke heavy or defensive characters. This was pretty devastating to experience, but also really cool to see now the different design choices in just the different Chaos runs alone. Like the second Chaos, I'd say is a lot more AoE heavy. It likes to throw swarms of enemies at you, so you're incentivized to now make sure you can slot in more AoE. This I think made it a lot more interesting for me, as it was now not only challenging but rewarded you for putting together more correct teams. This also means you can also give yourself a bit of a self-imposed challenge if you want to just see how far you can take yourself with whatever you scramble together. My experience might differ a bit from others as I didn't have nearly as much time as I would have liked to play around in this mode, so I didn't even get to try any 5-star runs. And with the expansion of the second map, getting to see these new exciting events that probably have a lot of big lore implications to them as well meant that the second half felt a lot more fresh. New enemies definitely helped that as well, as I found a lot of the new encounters pretty punishing but rewarding in their own way. I will say though that the balance definitely seemed slightly off. I ended up becoming more scared of regular fight rooms than the elites themselves because some of these standard encounters were just genuinely horrific. Like end running horrific. Most of the elites I ran into were challenging, but felt a lot more fair in how a lot of their gimmicks worked. Except this amalgamation here, fuck this guy. From my experience, you needed a lot of AP generation or free cards to play around his mechanic, and if you had neither, then you basically had to run every time. Another interesting thing is the difference between Deep Trauma and Standard mode. Deep Trauma is supposed to be the more difficult optional version of Chaos runs, but I actually found it to be easier here. Like that heart guy I just showed, any normal or elite fights in Deep Trauma have a chance to spawn these fixed invader fights, and if you win, you seem to be guaranteed one piece of gear at the highest rarity. And the invaders aren't available in standard mode, so it actually seemed to be better just to run Deep Trauma instead. Last thing I wanted to cover to kind of throw back to my impressions video where the runs had some length to them, at least 20 minutes. They weren't ridiculous just yet, but now with the second map, this flipped that on its head entirely. I think my fastest clear was just under an hour, maybe a little over. My other run I should have uploaded on the channel already was an hour and 20 minutes. This is quite the jump and kind of a big ask to be doing 6 times a week. Luckily, it's fun as hell, so it didn't really feel like a chore for me, but I can see with this being a gacha that this could get frustrating for more casual players. Remember, my experience may differ from yours. I didn't use any 5 stars, and we were missing quite a bit of progression, at least from my perspective. But yes, this was only the 3rd difficulty. This truly makes me excited for the more endgame chaos modes that will be available, and makes me super interested in how they end up approaching keeping the game fresh with what are going to be changing seasons. Chaos Zero Nightmare may challenge you, but I think it's going to be a fun experience, definitely worth having. Thanks everybody for watching me yap. Subscribe for more gacha reviews and Chaos Zero Nightmare content, and I'll catch you in the next one.